You're listening to the We.L.E.R.E. Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We.L.E.R.E. Real Estate Show.
It was what lens did I see things in? And a lot of us see things in the lens of DIY, do it ourselves, or it's some big mountain to cross over to get funding for a deal, right? Or to find a deal to begin with. I didn't see it that way. Like, it was like, I didn't buy in Seattle, Tacoma at that time. Like, but in my head, I'm like, oh, well, you just go get deals. Like, and you go get people to give you money to pay for them. Like, you just go do it. Like, that's my entire subconscious. That was my conscious mind. That was like how I saw it. So I didn't see those hurdles of DIY situation like most investors do. And so I just think that for yourself, if you're listening to this, like, what's your optics? Like, how are you viewing things, and can you change your perspective of how you see it? Can it be easier if you just see it in a different light of the deal versus the actual like mountain it might be?
The We Love Equity Show is brought to you by REIA, widely recognized as an outstanding resource for real estate investors with exceptional education, networking, and support, along with profit-enhancing benefits in all aspects of real estate investing. Visit REIA at www.asreia.org. That's visit REIA at www.azreia.org. Hello, We Love Equity listeners. How are you today? I hope that you're having a fabulous day, because I definitely am, and I'm pretty sure that my guest on today is having a fabulous day. So today I want to really dig into fixing and flipping and the BRRRR method. And I have my guest, Tarl Yarber, bigger pockets guy, has been around for years. I listened to him as I was coming up, followed him quite a bit, and he's based out of Seattle, Tacoma, Washington area, but he lives in Maui. So he's doing things virtually, virtual flips, doing BRRRR method, and he has some other things that he's doing. But we want to talk about, the flips, the BRRRR method, and some of the systems that he has in place so he can do these things virtually. So Tarl, man, welcome to the show. How are you?
Marcus, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. You got the cheers and everything.
All right, man. So tell me, you've been in the real estate business for quite some time. Just give us a brief background about your beginning. What did you do before real estate? And then how did you get into real estate?
Okay, so I was a young man with hopes and dreams and whatnot, and broke. But basically, no, in a very short nutshell, I was 20 years old. I went to the Real Estate Wealth Expo in Los Angeles in 2005 when I was 20, and Robert Kiyosaki was speaking there, and that's the only reason why I was going, because like I read his book when I was 17, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I never wanted to work for anybody, but I was going to, and that was what I didn't know what else to do.
Gotcha.
So I go down there and I see everybody speak, big sell-a-thon. Tony Robbins was there. They even had like Russell Simmons there, which is kind of cool. I had to see him speak, and they had all the big guys. They had Donald Trump speaking there, and then all of a sudden you had somebody talk about personal development stuff, a guy named Marshall Silver. And so I bought a personal development seminar from him, which was more money than God to me, which was $1,500 at the time. And
that's so quite a bit of money at 20 years old, man.
Yeah. And that same seminar today was for, who knows, it sells for 10 grand. I don't know. But So I buy that. I'm tripping out. I'm stressing. And then I see another seminar that's like $900. That's how to turn $10 into $10,000 in 30 days or less. And it was about wholesaling real estate. And I see her bring all these checks up on overhead projector, like all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I can buy her program, and in 30 days, I'll make 10 grand to pay off
the credit card.
The credit card for the personal development seminar. And so the only reason why I got into wholesaling or real estate was because the payoff for a seminar that I bought for personal development and through Marshall Silver. And then, then it didn't work out like I thought it would at all. But
so what happened, man? What happened? Because a lot of people do that. They go to the courses, they go to the seminars, they spend the money, and they think something instantaneously is going to happen, something magical is going to happen. So what happened to where it didn't go the way that you thought it would?
So it went definitely didn't go how I thought it was going to go. I was broke. Like as soon as I got back from LA for that, I was living in Sacramento at the time and California. And as soon as I got back, I still had a little job. I worked at Sears. I was still going to college full time. I was also doing Air Force ROTC in college and had a lot on my plate, girlfriends, that kind of stuff. But I was like, I need to make money. And so I was so naive though on everything that I literally did what most people don't do, which is I opened up the books and CDs and did exactly what it said to do. Like I just didn't think about it. I studied the crap out of it and then just went and did what they said. But the big thing that was a little bit harder is that as soon as you open up the books and listen to the CDs, they talk about paying for marketing and direct mail and like buying, not, foreclosure lists at the time. Foreclosure.com was a big thing. They didn't have half the, not even half, like 5% of what they have right now, like as far as access to distressed homes that are on the internet. So I had to go to the courthouse. I had to pull up the county recorder's information. I had to pull up the microfiches. I had to do all that stuff to figure out who might be in distress. Because if I didn't have money for marketing, then she's like, you got to go door knock. And so I'm like, all right, I go door knock then. And I got on my dad's shoes, right? Because I didn't have nice shoes. And then I would just go door knocking and terrified, like literally crying in the car. I was like scared little boy.
Because that's one of the hardest strategies to use is marketing. Is if you want to get out of that comfort zone real quick, do some door knocking.
And I had a big motivation. I pulled out all the cash advances on my credit cards so I can pay for gas and eat, and with no intention of paying them back until after I did a deal. So I knew I was going to mess up my credit, and I don't recommend that to anybody. And then I did it, but it took a few months to get my first deal, which was a $5,000 assignment fee, which definitely didn't go back to the credit cards. That went to going back to like eating and gas, because by then I dropped out of college. And that's a longer story. We don't need to get into that, but definitely dropped out of college by then.
Okay.
And then I went full time and all this. And then my third deal, which took 6 months from when
wait. Because I don't want to gloss over that first deal because you had the door knock and stuff like that. So for the listeners that haven't done a deal or working on their first deal, how did you complete that deal? Because it's only so much in the book that can tell you. Yeah.
So essentially, like I read and listened to these CDs and I read these books so much that if you talked to me, you'd think I'd done 100 deals already. Like, so that's on one side, right? My confidence was very big and I was very good at faking it till you make it back when I was 20 years old. So looking back, I kind of get mad at myself for how much I just faked it. And because I'm more of I've learned to become a much more authentic human being. But it's a lot less stressful just to be yourself, in my opinion. But
right.
But I had to learn that the hard way. So essentially the deal, door knocking, but I didn't know what I had. Like how do you comp a house? They didn't talk about that in the video. I talked about how to, like, once you get a house, you can start negotiating down for rehab. I'm like, cool, your house it's broken, right? Like, but I didn't know what the hell rehab was and how to analyze any of that crap. So it got to a point to where I finally was networking over at local REIA groups, like real estate investment associations. And I met this guy, David, who, like, for whatever reason, liked me. And he seemed to be like a big fish. And so when I set up an appointment and I'd go on it, I messed it up, totally burnt a few appointments. I finally was like, can I bring you to an appointment with me? And he's like, absolutely. So I brought him to an appointment with me, and he did, pretty much all the talking and did most of the work. And then it led to, I couldn't tell you how much he made on the deal because I was just so excited to get $5,000.
Right.
And honestly, I don't care like how much he made and what he did, but he closed it up and I got a $5,000 check, and I was stoked because then I can keep eating and moving on with my life. But the big thing I learned from that which is what we do today all the time and what I've always done since then, is that why not partner with people? It's just easier, especially if they can bring something to the table that I can't. And at that time, I had no skill whatsoever other than I can knock on a door and cry in my car when they say no to me.
Right.
And which I did. So for the full disclosure, and then that's how that kind of happened. But in a nutshell, I took him on 2 appointments, and then and each one I got $5,000 for.
So how real quick, Tarl, because that's important. A lot of people try and do everything on their own and try and figure it out on their own. You bombed some appointments. You could have made $5,000 on those appointments.
I probably could more if I knew what I was doing. But
So what gave you the impetus to say, you know what, let me get this guy. He seems like a big fish. Let me see if I can use him to help me, because I'm pretty sure that gave you confidence now going in because you got really backing you on everything.
Yeah. What gave me the confidence to bring him was that he told me to. So I was talking to him at a meetup or one of the meetings for the REIA group, and I just asked him lots of questions. And then I met with him for coffee more than once. And then he just took me under his wing a little bit. And it got to a point where he's just like, well, next time you set something up, just bring me with you. And I'm like, bring me with you. Yeah. And I'm like, cool, I can do that. And that's what I did. And then I just wanted something to work. And trust me, I was very greedy back then. I wanted everything, but I also knew I wasn't going to get it. And then I learned that, getting, I don't even know what the percentage was. Like I was going to say 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. But for all I know, I was getting 10% of something, but back then, but it didn't matter. And because I learned, I got confidence, because by my third deal, that was the big one. And there's an episode, Bigger Pockets 189, that I really go into it. And that was $100,000 wholesale fee.
Wait. You said 100,000?
Yeah. And so that was the third one.
So how did you, hold on, Tarl, because you can't gloss over making $100,000 as a wholesale fee. How did that happen?
Technically, it was a double escrow and double closing.
Okay.
Instead of a wholesale fee, which are a little bit different today than they were back then in the wild, wild west of 2005. But this is where I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, because like there's a lot more interesting stuff we do today that we can help people with. But on the side, I'll wrap it up on this part. Episode 189 on Bigger Pockets definitely goes over it. But essentially, I was, by now at this point in my career, almost 4 or 5 months into it or something, I was a part-time financial planner. Right? This is why I joke. I laugh at financial planners. I just want you guys to hear this. I'm a 20-year-old turning on 21 soon, broke as blank, right? Who got licensed to teach 40-plus-year-olds how to run their finances, right? So, and I was doing it, and I was making income.
You have nothing.
Zero. Like I was recruiting agents into our brokerage, and I'd have them drive me on appointments because I didn't have gas money. So woohoo. The reason why I brought that up was because one of the brokers in the office, I was telling him about how I was such a big shot with wholesaling deals, and he took me to lunch to ask me a lot more questions about what assignment contracts were. And of course I was like, oh yeah, I gotta do this all the time, right?
Yeah, you're the master now.
I'm a master. And then I find out like a day later, after I told him all that, he comes up to me and says, hey, we have a 40-acre property between my girlfriend and I. She was divorced for 3 years, and she owned a free and clear 40-acre property in an area called Smith River, California, with her ex that they've never been able to sell. They can never really agree what to do with it, like all this stuff. And they just wanted it gone. And he had the idea. It's just like, well, why don't we tie that up? I can get them down for a good price because they just want out. Mm-hmm. And so they could be separated forever. And then maybe we can wholesale it to somebody else for more. I'm like, oh, I do that all the time. Let's do that. Right. And I don't know shit about land, but we tied it up for $225,000, 40 acres, went out there, took tons of photos, didn't know how to sell land, brought it to the REIA group, did a bunch of, put it online, different land-based websites at the time. And we spent a few months working on it to try to get it to somebody. And we finally found somebody I think it was Kansas or whatever, that wanted like a horse type property. And they flew out there and met my buddy, who was the one that found the deal over in Smith River. And they walked it, they loved it, and they bought it for $325,000. And so we did a double escrow, which means just two different transactions where we're the middle person between the two. And so essentially we close on the 225 and then within like 5 minutes sell it for 325 instead of assigning it. So there's no assignment contract, so you don't see our assignment fee on the closing statements, and it's just a double escrow at that point. So you'd have to pay closing costs on both transactions. That's the only downside. So it's technically like $97,000, fee or whatever that you get, instead of $100,000. And then I split it 60-40 right at that point. So 60 for me, 40 for him. And that was my last real estate deal.
Okay. So going back, so you found that $100,000 wholesale deal, which was some land in California. I'm pretty sure that changed your life. What did you do after that? And then we're going to kind of bump it up, and we're going to go into currently what you guys are doing with the flips and with the Birdman.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we split it 60-40, and I can ask you, like, what do you think, how long do you think it takes a 21-year-old at this time to spend that much money? And you spend it really fast. So when you've been broke,
you spent it, you didn't put it back in marketing or anything like that?
Oh God, no, absolutely not. Like so I bought a BMW. I paid off all my credit cards, and I was never in debt again until I was like 30, and never had a credit card again until I was 30.
Okay.
which, by the way, isn't always the best thing because then you just don't have a credit for
right.
that long. And then for what else did I do? Went on trips,
So you
lived,
just blew it pretty
and
much.
yeah, some of it was smart, some of it was dumb, but for the most part, at the end of the day, I hated every minute of what I was doing in real estate. Every second. There's not a single thing I liked about it, not even remotely liked about it, other than the check. And so as soon as that was the last transaction I did until 2011, 2012. So
You did all of this, you was making money, but you didn't like wholesaling, you didn't like door knocking, didn't like any of it.
So,
Okay.
nothing. I went full-time in financial services after that and built a pretty good company with that. Got legitimately serious with that and experienced the market crash while a financial planner, had lots of clients, had lots of agents, built a good brokerage in Sacramento with that for years, and then got burnt out and then moved up to Seattle. And we don't need to go through that entire story, but I got moved up to Seattle and got back into real estate when I got up into Seattle in 2011. And
so you basically started over in Seattle in 2011. That start over, what did you do? Did you go to REIAs again and kind of start that way, or did you have some money? How did you reinvent yourself and start over?
So this is where, this is one of those stories, just because I don't usually say on podcasts, and because it's not relatable to a lot of people. Like, I never had my first flip. I never had my, and then I finally got the best first thing I had was that wholesale deal, right?
Okay.
That was those were the best first time experiences that other people can relate to for the most part, because how I got back into it in 2011 was absolutely not normal. So essentially I wanted to get back into real estate. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad again. I want to refine my roots and figure out what I want to do with my life. And through rereading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm like, you know what, let's go try this real estate thing again. And I was kind of good at it. Why not? And I'm smart with money now. And I'm much older and mature at that time. And so I started looking for different businesses that were in real estate. And then I found a company that was looking for somebody to be, more of their national salesperson they worked with Fannie Mae during this time period. So a lot of REO in 2011, real estate owned properties, foreclosures. Yeah. And they were what called a service area manager for Fannie Mae, where they were basically a contractor, where they would partner with Fannie Mae and they would do all the repairs on Fannie Mae homes before they would list them. And so I kind of stumbled into that, and then through a series of events, I become a independent contractor with them and start running their entire national sales. And through building literally national relationships with asset managers through various different groups, even Wells Fargo and Ocwen and Bank of America and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac,
major lenders,
major foreclosures,
major
asset managers for major REO portfolios. And I wasn't a threat to them because I wasn't some realtor investor at the time. I was just some guy that was part owner of a construction company. And through that, built massive relationships, and through a series of events, stumbled on an opportunity to start getting off-market deals direct from the bank through working with these asset managers. A lot of stuff happened, a lot of flying around all over the US, a lot of business partnerships. So I never did my first flip, right? We did our first 100. So it was me and two other guys partnered up in it. And then we just started, we didn't know what we were doing. We had to go raise money. We started getting lenders to give us money. We started getting buddies to give us money. We started doing joint ventures left and right. And we had so many deals coming in. A lot of times we were wholesaling them for nothing, just like $5,000, $10,000, just to get volume, because we had so much volume coming in for us. And we made it up. We didn't know what we were doing. And if I looked back during that time period between 2011 and 2014, which is when this was going on, how much we didn't know what we were doing, and how much, if I had that same opportunity today, it would be a completely different story. I'd be a billionaire. Let's just put that
but
completely different story.
You still use that, as a strength, because you still made money from it. You got yourself back into real estate.
A lot of money. But but what it really did for me is when I finally started Fixated, my company Fixated Real Estate, in 2014, the business partnership collapsed February 2014. It was, money does funny things to some people, right? And I think it makes good people better and bad people worse. And some of my business partners, it definitely accentuated some personality traits that didn't seem to be there when we first started doing the business together, until they started making a lot of money. Then those negative traits really started coming out. And so I left it. And I started Fixated in October, technically went full-time back into Fixated, my company, in October 2014. But when I did that, I made that transition, all I knew was volume, and all I knew was systems, and all I knew was I'm not working on the project. And why would we buy one deal when we could buy 10, right? And so that's why I don't, when somebody says their first flip, I don't have that first flip experience, because
Started at scale.
I started at scale. And so when I see somebody that's like, how do I do 2 flips? I'm like, well, I don't know. You wake up, that's
you just put it together.
Do it. So, and I can explain it now, but back then I didn't understand why that was such a challenge. And because when it came to money, I already knew, do joint ventures, go raise capital from other people, go get a hard money lender for 80% down and go find somebody to pay the other 20%. Why just do that? What's the big deal, right? It was just such a normal world for me. And when it comes to and because I hated most of the day-to-day stuff of what we did in real estate, I always did everything I could in our partnership and also in Fixated to get other people to do all the tasks that I didn't like to do. So I got really creative with systems, processes, how we document with photos. We're doing nationwide properties. So if you watch any of my videos on Bigger Pockets, I talk all the time about taking photos. And so and the reason that even came about is that if I'm in Seattle and we have a property in Florida, how can I go walk the property to go check it out, right? I'm not going to be able to.
Right.
You waste all your profit flying there and back and stay in hotels. So we had to have 100+ photos every week of these properties, independent people taking them, right? Independent of the contractors, having the realtors check on them. Realtors work for free, and all these situations to be able to get these quality control done on these projects. And so all I did when I started buying in Seattle, Tacoma area on my own is I just followed exactly what we did nationwide, but did it in my backyard. And I actually found that I worked harder in my backyard than I did when we did nationwide properties, because it was easy for me to drive the property, right? When it's just down the street.
People have a habit of saying, okay, well, I feel like I'm sitting at home or sitting in the office not doing much. Let me go and check on this property. Where if it's a property in Florida, you can't do that. So you basically leveraged other people's times. You use them as an asset. That way you can not have to worry about doing the logistics and making sure contractor is putting the drywall where it needs to be and things like that.
So I want to add one more thing on that, just for anybody listening, is that you don't hear what I just said and go, oh yeah, well, he had it differently than me. It's a different situation, right? It's how did I view it, right? It was what lens did I see things in? And a lot of us see things in the lens of DIY, do it ourselves, or it's some big mountain to cross over to get funding for a deal, right? Or to find a deal to begin with. I didn't see it that way. It was I didn't buy in Seattle, Tacoma at that time. But in my head, I'm like, oh, well, you just go get deals. And you go get people to give you money to pay for them. You just go do it. That's my entire subconscious. That was my conscious mind. That was how I saw it. So I didn't see those hurdles of DIY situation like most investors do. And so I just think that for yourself, if you're listening to this, what's your optics? How are you viewing things, and can you change your perspective of how you see it? Can it be easier if you just see it in a different light of the deal versus the actual mountain it might be? Because it might actually be a molehill actually.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Tarl, because that's one of the things that I was going through actually, because it's all about perspective. And that was one of the things that I was looking at. I'm so detail oriented to where I make something that's so small, so minute, and blow it up and make it seem like it's this very big challenge. And I was just thinking, just on yesterday, I need to change my perspective on how I see things and say, if this is what I need, let me just go out there and get it. You have the resources, you have the connections. If you don't have that, you know where to get it. There's the internet of things, Google. You go out there, you research it, and you find it, and you make something that seems so huge, so small, and then you just work it, man. So that's perfect that you keyed in on that point, because a lot of people starting out, again, everything is so massive. How can I raise $50,000? How can I? And that's small money. How can I raise $500,000? And there's people that's doing it. Tarl, you're doing it. I'm doing it. It's easy to do, but you have to get out of your own way and get out there and do it.
And I think it's a semantic too. You use the word how. It's if you change it to what, what do I need to do to get this deal, or what do I need to do to find somebody with 50 grand to put the down payment on for this joint venture with them in some way. How creates this mountain? How creates this this treadmill situation? and versus the what, like what needs to happen to make that, what are the steps that I need to follow? And it's a different question to ask yourself. And that took me a lot of years to change that verbiage in my own life so I can think differently through it and solve those problems easier.
Perfect. Well, let's take a brief break, and when we come back, let's bring everybody up to speed on what you're doing now, because we know that you're in multiple markets, fixing and doing a BRRRR method. So when we come back, we'll talk to Tarl about what he's currently doing now with Fixated, and then how you can get in contact with him and make the most of this opportunity. So Tarl, let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back.
PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
All right, guys, we are back with Tarl, and he's based out of Maui, lives in Maui, but he's doing things in the Seattle, Tacoma, Washington area. So he's doing some fix and flips. His company name is Fixated. And right now, Tarl, I know that you're doing tons of flips, man. Kind of walk us through some of the systems and the processes that you guys use to make sure that you not only do one, but you can do flips at scale, so that one can turn into 15 flips going at one time. How are your processes?
That's a very long discussion.
Yeah.
But the simple version of it, it's like, so we do both. We've specialized in single family fix and flip. Like that's what we did for many years. I would encourage anybody to pick a niche and stick with it for a period of time. And there was, if you would have, at one point in my career, I had like 4 or 5 different businesses going on that were all real estate related, but very different things. And I found that even though they were all making money, they weren't making a fraction of what I started to make when I only did one of those things. And I took that and I really changed things in 2015 when I said, I do single family fix and flip, 15% cash on cash margins, that I'm not going to do any additions. I'm not going to do any pop tops, which is where you rip off the roof and add a second story. And I'm not going to do any new builds or anything like that. We only do single family fix and flip for at least a 15% cash on cash margin in Seattle area, the Tacoma area, so King and Pierce County, and Portland at that time. And so if it didn't fit that buy box, we didn't even look at it, right? Period. Wow. And so we got very narrowed down on it. Now that's a big buy box, by the way, but it just was for our area. That means like anything that fit that, we're buying it. And we did that for years. And so with that, like we had to have ways, how do you analyze a deal quickly? How do you make sure that can you analyze a deal and close on it in less than 3 days? Like at one point we would need like 10 days, right? And then it got down to 7. And then eventually we got to the point where like, yeah, we can close tomorrow, whatever. But at one point we couldn't do that, right? So we had to go, no, we need to thoroughly walk the deal, and we need to like have an inspection period, and so those things changed over the years. But at one point, yeah, I wanted 2 weeks. I wanted a month to close if I could, right? And I wanted as much time as possible. And we needed to spend a lot of time analyzing deals, making sure it's the right thing. So for anybody out there, just because of where we are today in our systems, it wasn't where we were at one point, right? So you learn, you grow, you adjust, because shit happens in this business. Like you cannot, like it's construction. If you're doing anything in real estate that's value add means you're doing like rehab, like you're doing construction in some way, right? To increase the value of a property. So you're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with rehab. I don't care how perfect you are, something's going to go wrong. Like it's just so
many variables,
so many, right? And because of that, like you have to have a little bit of flexibility with those things and not get gummed up with it like I used to. I used to get pissed off every time something bad would happen in rehab because I hated rehab. I hated dealing with it. But you had to get good at it. So the reason why I'm going through this though is that the cornerstone of our entire business is dealing with shit for one, but not just dealing with it, but seeing it right? And documenting it after it's done. So you got to see it, you got to solve it, you got to deal with it, right? And then you got to document it. And that's the thing that I think people skip, that last step, is the documentation. And that's if you had to like line us up with another group, and maybe why we've scaled and systemized versus another group hasn't, is because we've documented our processes. And so, and the main reason, and anytime something really goes wrong, I'm not saying we're perfect on this, trust me, there's times that we've done the same mistake 4 or 5 times, and then we go like, why haven't we documented that yet? And then we go deal with it, right? But the fact that we're thinking about it, right, and we're trying to create a process to where like, how do we skip that again so it doesn't happen, right? Oh, okay, well maybe we should have a contract with the contractor so they don't run off with our deposit, right?
Yeah.
And and not only just a contract, let's not give them 50% down anymore. Let's give them a 10% down or 20% down, right? Like all those things that we just learned through making mistakes, and most of our systems and processes came from those mistakes, but we were okay learning from them, right? And I was okay with us documenting them, learning from them, dealing with them, so we didn't have to keep repeating it over and over again. So today, after thousands of mistakes, we've learned that we use 3 major softwares, right, that we love to death. We use Dropbox. I'd get rid of everything we have except Dropbox. If I had to only choose one thing, right, I would keep Dropbox over everything else. Google Drive, same thing, whatever. But even then, I nowadays prefer Dropbox. But use Dropbox for all of our file storage, everything. So if something that, for those of you guys out there where you're wholesaling, flipping, burring, multifamily, I don't care what you're doing, if you don't have your properties organized in a way that you or your teams can access them quickly and easily without having to talk to each other to find the right documentation for what you need or the right photos for what you need, then I think it's silliness. Like it's 2021, right? Like everything should be on the cloud. If my phone crapped out today, that's fine. I just go get literally any other phone, right?
Tap right back in
and be good to go, right? And I could just I just download the apps I need and log in and I'm good to go, right? I don't need to do, it should be no hardware dependency. There you go. That's what the word I'm looking for. But
well, a lot of people, not to cut you off, Tarl, but a lot of people, they focus on analysis, right? They analyze the numbers, they're analyzing the deal, they're analyzing the property. And with those standard operating procedures that you're talking about, those processes, that's still analysis. Hey, let's analyze this process on this property that we just flipped. Where do we make the mistakes? Where do we do good? Where do we do good at? And let's make sure that we analyze it and we do more of the good versus the bad and document those processes.
Yeah, correct. I could kind of go on a rant, so thanks for wheeling me back. But we do something called an after action report after every deal. Now, by every deal, I mean like almost every deal, because sometimes we forget to do it, but because we're not perfect. But the point of it is to get to, even if you're by yourself, right? Can you look in the mirror, not just for yourself, and say like, hey, I blanked up big time, right? I did something really stupid here. I waited. The contractor messed up. Right. Well, you hired the contractor. So why did you hire that one? Right. So like, I was lazy and I only wanted to get one bid. Oh, okay, cool. So, I went for the cheapest guy I could find, right? Oh, okay. That might be an issue too, right? So that's not always a good thing. But I didn't verify their licensing, or there was a lot of bad referrals. So what did you do to mess up the deal and take full ownership of it? But what did you also do to make it go right? And it's not a blame game when we go through an after action report. It's not an airing of grievances either. Like, it's about objectively looking at, hey, the timeline was this, what we meant to do 80,000 rehab, we spent 90. Okay, where did we go over budget? Let's look at that, right? Oh, we had a massive issue here that nobody knew about when we bought it that we had to solve. Okay, like sewers messed up or whatever. And okay, we can figure that out. Oh, timelines. Why were we 2 months over? Well, because the lockdown happened and permitting took 2 more months. Oh, okay, that's nobody's fault then. There's nothing we could have done. Oh, it's because nobody submitted the plan set because we got lazy about it and forgot. Oh, that's okay. Why? Like, why did that happen? Yeah. So we're just going through those processes and seeing is the thing I'm looking for more than anything, Marcus, is it something that we know better on, right? Those are the ones that we want to hone in on, because maybe there's a training situation, maybe there's a laziness situation, maybe it's my fault, maybe I'm the bottleneck because I got lazy, right? And is it a mistake we made more than once? And if it's a mistake we made more than once, then we really got to deal with it. If it's a new mistake, then that's okay, right? I'm actually okay with new mistakes because it's new. And so we want to figure out why it happened. We want to learn from it, and we want to see, is this a one-off, Or is this something we have to put into our process to prevent in the future? Most of the time it's a one-off, but we need to be aware of it and see it so we can look out for it again.
Because what we do is we always look at the process. If there's a major mistake somewhere, okay, is it a people problem or is it a process problem? But if the process is ideal and we run this process numerous times and we have no flaws, and then when we insert this outlier or this person that never ran through the process before, then it's a people problem. It's not a process. Or if the process is just flawed, we don't submit the contract to the right person or something like that, then it's a process problem. But you got to be able to identify when you're doing processes, which one is it? And like you said, Tarl, you may be the bottleneck. I may be the bottleneck. So how can I get myself out of this process so I can insert somebody better that'll make the process run a lot better?
Everything in my business is my fault. Everything.
Yep.
And that's sometimes hard for us to accept. Oh, it's my staff. They messed up. Well, you hired the staff, right?
Hired them.
And did you train them correctly?
Train them, yep.
Right. There's a gentleman on my team that's been with me since 2015. Love him to death. Actually, I consider him one of my best friends now, but he technically works for me, right? But there was a period of time in 2017, I was going to fire him. And he knows this. I told him. So was it 2016. So less than a year later. But then I subscribed to a lot of Jocko Willink stuff. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. I would definitely encourage people to read that book. But I got to meet Jocko and I talked to him about like staffing and stuff. And he straight up says like, well, if your staff's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, have you trained them appropriately to do what they're supposed to do? And it was at that minute I realized, wait, I can't fire this guy because I've not given him all the tools and resources he needed to be successful in his position. And I went back to the dude and I told him what I learned. And I'm like, hey, I found out it's not your fault why you suck.
Yeah.
It's me why you suck, right? And I don't say it that way, but that's pretty much what I was saying.
Right.
And we started over and I realized I need to give this guy the tools and resources he needed to be successful in his position. And he's been with us, since then, right? So it's 2021 right now. So so those are the kind of things that like maybe perspective for you and your business, not you particularly, but people listening is, you probably are the bottleneck. You probably are the issue, right? Which grow yourself, work on your process. And if you really suck at something, get somebody else that's better at it to do it, right? And even if how much is it costing you? I used to do all the billing, right? All the billing for my business. Number one, I hated the heck out of it, like just like everything else I do in the business. But I would be the major bottleneck for finances, for getting people paid and checks cash and all this stuff. And I finally had my CPA basically tell me that I'm the issue, right? And I should stop doing it. And I'm like, well, who's going to do it? It's like, you have a bookkeeper. And then he just helped me put together a little process to let that go. And now, guess what? It's the best thing we run in our entire business, actually. It's our billing side is the most oiled machine that we have. Like, it's the greatest thing because I got out of the way. And I don't even think about it. Like, it's just all perfect all the time because I'm not in it. And so,
especially with that entrepreneurial mindset, Tarl, we always believe that we have to be the one. In order to build a great business, you got to be in the trenches. You got to swing the hammer. You got to do the billing. You got to market. You got to find deals. You got to talk to sellers. And a lot of times you just have to outsource a lot of those assignments because there is someone out there that, one, loves to do it, two, that can do it better than you, and three, that frees you up to do something so you can work in your greatness versus you doing billing, which I know you hated to do.
Yeah. And I would just say anybody out there, like you can't put the cart before the horse too, right? So there's a point, like if you were 20-year-old Tarl in his dad's like shoes driving around and also his tie, right?
Yep.
Having no money that can't even eat, you don't need a bookkeeper at that point, right? That's probably not the time to go find a bookkeeper or even be thinking about it actually.
Right.
That could be that analysis paralysis that could be caused when you're too new in the business and okay, Tarl said, find a bookkeeper. Marcus said, you need to hire the right people. Like, just go send a mailer out, like go get a deal first and then maybe go deal with those other things. So analysis paralysis can mess you up quite a bit, but there comes a point where you realize, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I'm not the right person. And before you say, I can't afford it, you think, what do I need to do to afford it? Or what does it actually cost? Because you'd be very surprised at how affordable just a bookkeeper is, especially with the way the world works virtually these days. It can cost you very little to nothing to be able to do it. So a lot of stuff you can outsource out there for very affordable, but it might force you to get more clear on your processes and your SOPs and the guidelines and things that you need done, which if you're not even clear on what those things are, you're not going to make it clear for other people, and they're going to be very confused. So delay that, because they don't want to deal with their own chaos going on in their own lives and business. They don't want other people to see that.
Yep.
Or they don't want to take the time to write out a process to be accountable for somebody else to do it. But that's what's holding you back. So to begin with.
Because I mean, those writing out those processes is not the fun, sexy thing to do, and it takes a lot of time. But guess what? Once you do it once, you have the foundation. Yes, you may have to go back and revise some things, add a step, take a step out or something like that, but you have the foundation. So then you can pass that on to your employees or your partners, whoever you're working with, and say, hey, look, this is the process. Let's train you on it, get you up to speed. Now we know, hey, it's not the process that's a problem. Maybe you're not following the process thoroughly the way it should be.
Maybe one viewpoint to have for somebody, if they want to figure out how do I create a process, right, is if you take a house, it doesn't matter if it's a multifamily, a single family, a land development, whatever, right? If at the end of the project, I ask you the question, can you show me how you acquired it, how you analyzed it, how you rehabbed it, how you QC'd it, all the way up to how you dispositioned or stabilized it? Can you show me your process, how you did that from start to finish, so that I can follow along? If your answer is or like, I don't know, then you don't have a process, right? Most of the times, like maybe it's in your head, right? Maybe you're guessing, maybe you have no clue how you did it. You got lucky. I don't know, but maybe you've done it 20 times already, but it's different every time. And I know there's businesses out there, you can ask me, I can legitimately show you every single thing and step about that one property we did 5 years ago. I could still pull that up for you and show you step-by-step documentation, every little thing we did from how we found it all the way to disposition, and just from storing docs in the right way and having a process for it, and then duplicating it every single time. So you don't have to think about it. So the first one might be hard, the third one might be hard, but all of a sudden the fifth one becomes easy, right? And if you follow that process, right, over time, think long-term with it, the future you will be very appreciative that you did that.
Absolutely. So Tarl, man, we really didn't even get into everything that I wanted to get into, but I think this going through the mindset and going through these processes and things like this it was very important for people to hear this. So briefly, and just real briefly, kind of touch on what you guys are doing now, where are you looking to go, and what steps are you taking in order to get there as far as your company Fixated now?
So right now we don't do anywhere near the volume we used to do, but a lot of that has to do with lifestyle more than anything.
Okay, so it's by choice, not by pandemic, not by market conditions or anything like that.
Don't get me wrong though, like if we wanted to go back to the volume we used to do, it would definitely be different than how we used to do it because of the market, because of the pandemic, because material costs, right? Those are definite factors, don't get me wrong. And it would definitely be much more competitive. Like right now, we have like 9 deals going on right now. If I remember correctly, I'd have to look at our chart that are business deals. I have a bunch of personal stuff that I do, and I lend, and I also invest with other people that I'm not counting in that because I'm passive in those. But active inside our business, we have 9 going on right now. But those at our height, we'd have between 17 and 23 going on, of rehabs anywhere between $60,000 to $300,000 in rehab, and so per project, so larger deals. But right now, end of early 2018, end of 2017, we made the decision to create more of a lifestyle business where we did less than 10 at a time. So our thing is, once we reach more than 10, we kind of like pull back, and because I didn't want to hire more staff, we just kind of keep and by 10 I mean we're the operator, we're the one managing, we're the one conducting the whole process, right? I have other things I'm part of. I'm a partner in different funds, right? We do that, but I'm not the operator, right? I'm more of the passive, the consultant, the director, that kind of stuff. So, and even though I might be a GP, general partner in some of those, I'm not the active general partner, if that makes sense. So I live definitely more of a lifestyle business today by choice. But through that, yes, we have 9 going on. Some of them are flips, some of them are BRRRRs, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Nowadays, though, like I get kind of nervous at the idea of selling any of them. And we were talking briefly about this before we started the podcast, was we have a deal right now. This is how stupid the market is. Actually, not a deal. All our deals are this way right now. I'm going to go drive it here in a second, but I think I did a video on this one on BP. But anyways, when we bought it, we thought it would be worth like 425 ARV when we were done with it, right? And we're 4.5, 5 months into the project, right? It's wrapping up here soon. This thing will sell for 550 now, right?
Wow.
And it's gone up 125K in value since we bought it, right? Like, and we only bought it like 4 or 5 months ago, and that's stupid. Going up 25%, right? Yeah. That's so dumb, right? And that's short in less than 6 months. So when I see that, one side, and this is where you got to think about it, one side of me goes, wow, we just made another 100 grand on a deal that we're already on budget on to begin with, right? This is great. Or I go, wait, why should we sell this house? We just made an extra 100 grand on this deal. Like, and can we keep it, right? And because, you know, years ago, yes, I would have sold the heck out of that thing and cashed out on it and taken that check and done whatever I was going to do with it back then. But today I go, okay, well, is it more important for me to have a high income or a high net worth, right? Or high asset, right? Is it more important to me to have, maybe that thing might only cash flow $200-300 a month, right? Which if we sold it, right, we'd make about 170, 180 on this thing right now when we're done selling. This is an easy flip for us. Like, this is a standard bread and butter flip. We had to take it down to the studs, right? We do full rewire, full plumbing, everything. But at the end of the day, it's about $140,000 remodel. But it's a very simple one for us. So yeah, we can go make almost 200 on it. Who knows? Maybe we would if we sold it by the time the market's ready for it in the summer. But if you don't need that money right today, and do you hold on to it? And do you trust that the market's still going to be good next year? Right? Do you trust that, do you trust on holding on to the deal? Are you going to regret a year from now going like, man, now things were 650, or man, now the dollar's so devalued that the, inflation's going up so much that, having a hard asset's a lot better than the liquid cash sitting in the bank. So those are questions you got to answer for yourself. And for me, they're really tough questions, and really, really tough, because I'm terrified of making the wrong choice for me and my family and my team. And it'd be very easy for us to just list this thing and go. But I've listed way too many houses I later regretted selling in my career. So it is a hard time right now to make these choices. And when everybody's greedy, right, you're supposed to be stingy, right? And when everybody's stingy, you're supposed to be greedy. Everybody's greedy big time in everything right now. So it's tough. It's really tough to make these choices. And I don't have an answer for anybody on that one.
It is. And I can attest to that. I mean, we had a deal where we said, okay, we did the ARV. We were just wholesaling this one out. We did the ARV, and we were like, okay, this property is sale for $225. Well, by the time the end buyer did the rehab, and it was only a 90-day rehab, the thing sold we had it for $225 as the ARV. It was like $295 they ended up selling it for. And it was like, we could have did that ourselves and made that money versus wholesaling it out, because we thought the margins were going to be thinner. So like you said, with this market, it's difficult to really pinpoint which direction to go. That's why knowing, what your core principles are, you have to rest on that right now, because the money is good. So it's take the cash now or the cash later. It depends on what your end goal is.
It just comes back to, for anybody out there, strong. If you're in this business, you're in the investment business, right? Which means you need financial education. So it's not just off-market deals and direct mail and rehab. Like, you're investing, even though like you might be using other people's money. If you are calling yourself a real estate investor, you should be strong at financial education for yourself, right? Yeah. And making those right choices, realizing, hey, my tax bracket's going to be X, right? And if I leave the money in there, then I have deferred, I can defer that, right, in some way, and get into capital gains, unless of course the tax law changes on what capital gains is supposed to be, right? Like, so it's there's a lot of big, huge question marks that are hard to answer, but you got to look for yourself. So if you're in a situation, having $1 million cash sitting in the bank sounds cool, but is not a good thing. And especially if it's in the same bank, and it's, having it sitting in equity is also not cool when you need the cash to pay for shit like food. So it's So it's a tough, so what's the balance? What's the, and I don't like that word balance, but what's that right equation for yourself, for you and your financial life, that you're comfortable with enough in the bank in case, you need it, right? But at the same time, you don't have it all sitting there doing nothing for you, losing value due to inflation. So and if all of a sudden the dollar gets devalued or deflated, or like there's any of these big question mark things, then you're going to lose all that if it's sitting in the bank. But that's also terrifying to think at the same time. So but is that going to happen? Probably not, right? But what's your comfort zone too? And those are questions everybody has to ask for themselves today and answer for themselves today.
Yeah, it's that bottom line purpose. Why are you doing this? So what do you want your money to do for you at the end of the day? Because some people may need the cash now versus later, and some people may say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to take this money or this equity, pull it out and put it into a different investment vehicle that will hedge against some of that inflation. So like you said, it's just having that financial education and knowing which way you want to go and what direction you want to go into. So go ahead.
Just one book I would encourage people to read is it's a book called The Soul of Money. And it definitely changed my perspective on my personal finances and money, and not hoarding cash like I used to, and like just being able to live a little bit more today, because we don't talk about it enough because nobody likes to talk about their own mortality. But like it's, you only have so much life to live, right? And so making great money is very important, in my opinion, to live the lifestyle that I want to live. But at the same time, right, it's more important for me to have experiences and live my life and be stress-free while doing that. And money definitely helps with that. But it's not the only thing, right, when it comes to the lifestyle I want to live, right? So figure that out for yourself, what your major why is and how you want to live your life. And that might mean you only need to make like 50 grand a year to live the lifestyle you want to live, right? It might mean you need to make 5 million a year to live the lifestyle you want to live, right? But know that what it really means to make that kind of money, not just for taxes and expenses. It's very easy to spend 5 million, believe it or not. And it might not get you what you really want.
What you want, exactly.
But you might not like the lifestyle it takes to make that too, right? And because we just want the flashy car and to look dope in the house, right? But in order to maintain that lifestyle, you might not like the work it takes to do that. And you might enjoy the beach time instead of making 100 grand a year, living on a permanent vacation if you wanted to, which you could do, right, for very little.
Right.
But anyways, just something
lifestyle. So Tarl, let's wrap up, man. We're gonna put you on the hot seat. Let's put Tarl on the hot seat. Tarl, answer these questions for me as quick as possible for me. Starting over, what would you do differently?
That's
something different with that 100 grand, huh?
I don't know. I did a lot of cool stuff with it, but I would honestly, looking back, most of what I would change, I can't say I would change much that's real estate related, more mentality related in my 20s. But if I really had to figure out, if I can go back in time to 2011 and 2012, oh my gosh, like there's just such a difference there. But I would do better with my finances. Like that's probably, if I wanted to wrap it up, is I would do a lot more energy and effort to make myself personally financeable at a much younger age, for lending purposes and so forth. I would do better at documenting my finances when I was younger, and for tax purposes and so forth, and tax returns. When you're getting to the next level with real estate, having strong financials, not just for yourself, but for your businesses, is really important. And it makes your life either living hell or super freaking easy. Like when it comes to financeability and just like being able to be a grown up in the business, basically. So I would do better with that. That took me a few years to figure out. And then when you flip houses, you're just stacking cash, but maybe you're forgetting about the whole like documenting stacking.
Right.
So there's that part. But in reality, I would keep more. Like I think there's very few house flippers that are out there that would say that they wish they continued to sell every single thing they had. Like most of our big regrets is I wish we kept more of what we had. I didn't have a rental until 2016 after 4 years of doing 500 plus homes.
Well, Tarl, it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of times when we get into real estate, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, I don't want to have to work for anyone. I want to be able to sit up on the beach and live the lifestyle that I want to live. And the majority of that come through the passive income through the rental properties. But a lot of times we get in and we say, yeah, I want to flip 500 properties. I want to wholesale. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then when we look back, we say, man, we wish we would have just kept 50 of those houses that we flipped.
10, whatever, like any of them. So like, or it's definitely, one of the big things I would do differently is look at it. And look at it through a different lens, right? And see, I saw a flip and that's all I saw, right? I didn't see, there's so many developments that we sold that we didn't know we had. There's so many amazing burrs that we didn't know what that was, right? Just countless. And for the quick cash, because that looked cooler at the time.
That looked cool. Yep. All right. What do you think is one characteristic every high producing investor needs to have?
Humility, and when it comes to their mistakes, like it's being able to be self-analytical. In my opinion, I'm very big on self-awareness and just knowing what's my fault, what's not my fault, and what can I control. But not everybody will agree with me on that. I know some very successful people that don't even know. They couldn't even like look at their own hand. They have no self-perspective whatsoever. Right. Like, so, and they're very successful at what they do. They're just like, they have no self-introspection. Like it's all external. So I can't say that's really important. I think that's more important to have a stress-free life, right? In my opinion, okay. But I'm more big on that than anything.
Gotcha. All right. So you gave us one book recommendation. You said The Soul of Money. Any other book recommendations that you would refer?
Yeah, I don't read real estate books, just a full disclosure on that. But for all my books would be definitely more personal development than anything else, and leadership. But Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is definitely up there as far as good leadership books. 4-Hour Work. If I had to say my 3 system books, like if you had to read these 3 books and do what they say, then then you will know exactly how I run all my businesses, which is The One Thing by Gary Keller, which got really honed in on me, like how to focus on what's the very most important thing I need to be doing in my business at any one time and what I'm most effective at. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, which got me to think more on how do I get other people to do stuff, systems, processes, to be able to be a lot more creative with, I only have 2 hours to work this week, right? How do I get everything done, right? In the project, like thinking really hard on that kind of stuff. And if it was simple, what would it look like? That was a good question that I got out of that book. And the last one is The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, which he is actually a orthopedic surgeon. And it's an amazing book. Now, it's not like this is how you make a checklist. Like it's actually a journey of how like one checklist completely saved thousands of lives in the medical industry and stuff like that. Like some simple 5-point checklist that got created, and how that whole process happens and how you simplify the heck out of basically SOP into a very simple process. So we took those 3 books, or over the course of years of like going back to them, reading them, doing whatever. And that's my brain when it comes to our real estate business, is those 3 books.
All right. Interesting. So guys, I'll make sure I have all of that information in the show notes so you can go and pick up those books that Tarl recommended. So Tarl, how can we get in touch with you? How can we follow you? How can we find you and see what you're doing, man, and be a part of your community?
We do a lot of events, but lately we haven't been because there's this weird thing going around in the world. But but in reality, like my Instagram's always a good one, at Tarl Yarber. You can follow me there. I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better at it. And we do post some of our houses there every now and then. But it's right now, if you just go on there, you just see me doing jiu-jitsu with Brandon. But for and my kid. But we do definitely, we're ramping back up all of our social media again. Bigger Pockets, we do a lot of videos for Bigger Pockets YouTube channel. And we're doing about 1 a week right now again. There's a lot of past videos that you guys can watch on our deal analysis. And we do a lot of property walkthroughs where I'm like, here's a house, like we literally bought this. Let me show you how we did it. Those are really good. In my opinion, they're the best videos ever done. But in reality,
obviously,
they're all long though, 45 minutes plus, because we go into depth on each one of these projects.
That's good. And
I don't hide anything. So it's like, this is the BS. This is the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. So definitely check those out if you want. But Instagram's always a good one. You can direct message me. I'm not the best at it, but whatever.
And then you're still doing the Pacific Northwest, like
Big Badass Real Estate Wealth Expo.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was the largest West Coast conference for real estate investors in 2019, specifically for investors. And 2020, we did a virtual. We had 1,800 people at the virtual one in 2020. We're not going to do one in 2021, and we plan on relaunching it in early first quarter of 2022, and here on the West Coast again. It's a national conference. We just call it the PNW. We're going to probably change it just to the Big Badass Real Estate Wealth Expo, so that way people don't just see it as PNW. But BPCon, Bigger Pockets, has their conference coming up in October. We're going to be at that.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll just go to that instead this year because we living in Maui right now. We're going to come back. And with all the restrictions that have been going on out there, we just don't want to have a repeat for ourselves with what we had in 2020 with having to launch this 1,500 person conference and then all of a sudden like almost lose our ass when all the restrictions happened in 2020. So I don't want to do that again. I don't need that stress, right? So I'm all about like chilling on the beach right now and scuba diving. So we'll reapproach that early next year. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll announce that, of course, through our Instagram channels and everything.
All right. Well, perfect. Tarl, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for being on the show. I know that people got a lot of takeaways here, especially with the systems and processes. Again, we didn't even intend to go down that road, but I think it was really, really good because I actually gleaned a lot from it. I'm sure everyone else gleaned a lot from it. So imparting real quick, Tarl, what are some words of encouragement that you can give some investors out there that are either struggling to get up and get going or that's pivoting? What words of encouragement can you share with us?
I think that if you hang out with me long enough, you're gonna get to a point where I'm just gonna start asking you about what you really want in your life and like what you really want to do, and who gives a shit about anybody else and what they want, right? Meaning figure out what you want. And if don't pay attention to society, don't pay attention, turn off the freaking news, like don't watch that shit. And just be more in tune with yourself and your family, and by I mean your immediate family, not your extended, because they can pull you down. But and what life do you want to live, right? And be okay with that. If you just want to sit around watching TV all day and that would make you the happiest person in the world, cool. What are you stressed out about? Go do it. Like, so like, oh, but everybody will judge me. Fuck that. Sorry. Who gives a shit? Like, just go do you, right? And you'll be surprisingly happy and get rid of all those people in your life that are pulling you down. Like, why even be around them? There's a great quote out of Rich Dad Poor Dad that I say to this day all the time. If you can't change the people around you, then change the people around you. And it's don't surround yourself with people that bring you down. It doesn't matter if they've been your friend for 20 years. If you're on a path and that person's dragging you down, why are they in your life? So it's now if you're the asshole in the relationship there, that's different, right? That's where that self-awareness is. Right? But like, because you can be kind of if you're the jerk, then you're the jerk. But there's a nice way to do it. But the situation is it's your life. You only have so much time, and so figure out what to do with it and be happy with it, and don't care what other people think with your choices, and do it anyways, because you'll be surprised at how many people will be inspired by that. And we'll ask you, how are you doing that? And when you're the happiest person in the room, because what I've learned about happiness is that you don't need to add things on to be happy. You have to let go of things to be happy and release them and be like, oh, I don't need all that shit. I'm happy today. Right. And so if it's a deeper conversation for sure, but you're not going to be where you want to be in life, right? In my opinion, if you don't, be honest with yourself. And so with what you really want, not for other people, but for you. And so, that's all I want people to do is be themselves. That's it.
Okay. You guys heard it from Tarl Yarber right there. Be yourself, be honest with yourself, know exactly what you want, and then create a plan in order for you to get there. Close out all of the noise and you will definitely get there. So Tarl, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for being here. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day because I know you have plenty of things to do, like scuba diving and surfing and things like that. So
good times. Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you so much, man. And guys, you know what to do. You got the instructions. Get out there, take action, and remember to always enjoy the journey. All right, guys. That was Tarl Yarber. Bigger Pockets contributor. Like I said, he's doing tons of fix and flips and burrs in the Pacific Northwest area. Again, our conversation went totally different than what I expected, but it was a good thing because those were some of the things that I think that you guys need to hear, especially on the ground level, is making sure you have those systems in place, documenting everything, documenting how I take my pictures, documenting how I'm sending out my direct mail or doing my cold calling or doing my rehabbing, finding a contractor. So you have to remember, you got to take time to stop running and doing everything to start documenting what you're doing. That way, when it's time for you to hire, you can bring the right people in and they know exactly what they need to do. So Guys, thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MRCS Maloney. You can find me on all platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter at MRCS Maloney. And feel free, if you find that this content is benefiting you, give us a rating or a review. And that way we'll know exactly what content to provide for you in the future. Thank you so much. It's time for me to run. Got some things to do, guys. Remember to always, always enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCS Maloney, Twitter at MRCS Maloney, and of course, IG at MRCS Maloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.